came across a really interesting study that was published by Harvard. They studied 776 people at Procter & Gamble. They had individuals using AI, individuals working by themselves, teams using AI, and teams working by themselves. But the individuals using AI were happier, produced as high or higher quality of work as the teams working by themselves without AI, multitudes better than the teams working by themselves. What it proved was AI absolutely should be a team member. It is something that very soon we will not be able to function normally without it.
John, I'm stoked to learn something from you today. I think I'm going to learn a lot. Tell me really quickly, what's your business?
Yeah, so I'm one of the co-founders of Think.AI, Thynk.AI, and we provide businesses with AI agents that can help automate processes for them. Our agents can make and receive phone calls, send and receive text messages, emails, hold meetings, schedule meetings, interview people, a variety of things. And so we help automate processes that involve communication, typically with customers or sometimes internal communications as well.
Okay, I'm really excited to check this out because there's a lot of talk from people who are like, oh, AI is coming. AI agents are here. I've played around like with operator and different agents. Usually when people talk about agents right now, it's like robotic process automations that have been rebranded as agents. But I'm excited to see what you've put together. And you're not just an entrepreneur who's using AI, you're an entrepreneur who has a company that helps entrepreneurs use AI. So it's kind of pretty meta.
And we use the AI to build our business, right? So we are our first customer. We use what we sell and it works to help, put us in touch with people. So it's awesome.
Dude, that is awesome. All right. So let me ask you the first question that I ask everybody. What models do you use and for what purposes?
Yeah. So we use a variety of different tools. When you say what models, that's kind of a LLM type of a question, which is great. We do use ChatGPT on the back end. We're using 4.0 for some of our conversational things. But I mean, in our business, we're in Perplexity. We use Claude occasionally, ChatGPT, a variety of different.
Are there different use cases you found that are better for some than others?
Yes, a little bit. I'm a ChatGPT user. It knows me well. I've been using it for a long time. And so I don't, my prompting there is pretty easy because I can ask it something and it knows so much background about me that it's able to answer so much about my family, about my business, about, the way that I operate in life, et cetera. We have an AI podcast that's completely AI. We use Notebook LM for that. I don't know if you're familiar with that. That's a Google product. And so that's more of just kind of a fun thing that we do. We're using it to stay up to date on all of the things going on in the world of AI. And we were like, well, we're making this. Why don't we publish it? And so, we use that. We don't do a lot of coding. My business partner is more on the operations side. So he gets into that a little bit more. And I think he uses Perplexity a lot more than he's using ChatGPT.
Generally speaking, these are the use cases. ChatGPT is used as a general thought partner to sort of ideate with. Claude is used a lot by coders who are writing code. Perplexity is used a lot for research because of the real-time access to the internet. Gemini is used when people are trying to tie the Google suite together. So there's a whole that I'm seeing so far is these are kind of the general use cases that people use for these items. Notebook LM is interesting though. You're the first person to talk about Notebook LM. I've personally used Notebook LM for my podcast because what I've found is I'm going to use words I don't know, so you'll correct me. But it's kind of like a closed sandbox in the sense that I don't get a lot of hallucination when I ask it to go and pull a transcript and maybe do an analysis for me or write a summary. Whereas with ChatGPT, I'll get a lot of hallucinations unless I'm very specific with my prompt. What do you use Notebook LM for?
Like I said, we have a podcast that we produce. It's a weekly podcast. It's on, the news of the AI agents or of the AI world. And so we collect, recent publications, news stories, et cetera. We load all of that into Notebook LM, and then we use its podcast feature to create a podcast that we publish every week.
I haven't seen the podcast feature. No, that's not true. I have seen the podcast feature. I've never used it though.
It's pretty cool. Yeah.
Is it good?
Check it out. Yeah.
Did you clone your voice for it or is it using its own?
We have it just using its own. You can clone your voice and you can actually come in as a guest on the podcast and the AI hosts will interview you. And, there's a lot that you can do with it, but we use kind of the basic features of it. And again, normally, initially we started using it just to help us stay up to date on all of the happenings in AI. This
Yeah.
industry is moving so fast, it's a little crazy, right? And then we were like, let's just share this. Why not?
How's the podcast done? I'm so curious. How many downloads do you get a week, or how many listens, or how many people are?
Gosh, you know what? I don't even pay attention to those numbers. So I honestly don't know. I apologize, Nick. I should know those numbers.
You don't have to,
Um,
you don't
but
have to apologize. You apologize for not knowing your numbers. I'm just curious. Are you looking at it as like a potential funnel, or is it just, hey, this is cool, why don't we just put this out there?
Yeah, a little bit of a funnel, but not something that we really,
Yeah.
push a lot of content to or, market in any way. I think it's something that we mention in a newsletter that we send out to our email list each week, and just as a giveaway.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that. So talk to me about Think.AI. You said it helps business owners automate their business. What does that mean?
I'll tell you the history, and that will help explain what we do and what our AI agents actually do. So my business partner and I had spent a number of years in technology and in sales, and for years have talked about, hey, we need to go on our own. We need to go on our own, start our own thing. And so about a year and a half ago, we started going down that road more earnestly with a technology that was in the physical security space. And as we were starting up that company, we said, gosh, AI is really coming on. Wouldn't it be cool if we could find an AI solution that could help replace the pre-sales motion, right? The prospecting and the qualifying of leads, warming things up, discovery calls, et cetera. And wouldn't it be awesome if it just put appointments on our calendar with prospects that, had already gone through a little bit
We're
of a filtering
qualified to some
process. We're
extent.
qualified.
Yeah.
Exactly. We looked and looked and looked and looked, couldn't find anything that did everything. We found tools that would do, the texting and automate the texting, but it wouldn't do the phone calls, or, technology that would do the phone calls, but it wouldn't do the emails, and nothing that did everything. We did a lot of research. We found bits and pieces of different tools. We put them all together, put together an automation using a CRM, high level automation backend, and we built it. And initially built it for us to use. And then as we started to recognize, hey, this is actually a pretty cool tool, we said, this could be a business. Maybe this is something that we should actually be pushing. And so we pivoted away from the physical security side and went all in on AI. And that's what we've been doing now for about the last 8 months or so.
So it started as a sales assistant. I don't know the right word, but
Yeah.
for the sales process, is it strictly sales still, or have you expanded outside of sales?
So it can do a lot more than that. The same platform is used, but it can do customer service. It can do HR. A month or so ago, we used it to conduct like 60 or 70 interviews for us as we were going through a hiring process. So it can be used to do a number of different things, but anything related to communications.
Are you still using other technology and this is a wrapper for it, or have you developed your own, text to speech model? Or
It's a mixture of things. So we're using other technologies underneath the hood, but we've been able to stitch all of those together and have them work in a unified kind of omni-channel fashion. So
it's interesting. I used Air.ai a couple of years ago when it first came out.
Yep.
And it was cool. It was like you knew the future was coming, but there was still kind of a lag. It didn't feel great. Has it progressed? Has it gotten a lot better, or is it still laggy? Like, do you have to tell them up front, for example, hey, this is an AI agent that you're talking to?
It depends on the person. We have people, in fact, we had someone just the other day on one of the phone calls. He had been on with our AI for like 5 minutes, and he goes, wait a second, is this a human or is this AI? And we've trained our AI, sometimes people say, oh, just lie, tell them it's a human, right? And we
Yeah.
don't do that. We're very upfront with people. And so the agent said, yeah, I'm an AI agent designed to help answer your questions about Think. And the guy was just blown away. You could hear over the phone him kind of gasp and go, oh my gosh, you are the best AI I've ever met.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that was cool, but it is still AI. You still have latency issues sometimes where it pauses a little bit longer than maybe is natural, or it comes in a little bit sooner than is natural. That's getting better. There are models out there right now that very difficult to tell. And so we're watching those very closely. And as those get tested to the point where we're comfortable, we'll continue to upgrade and, make it better and better.
So that hasn't really been an issue for you,
Mm-mm.
the AI component to it?
No.
That's surprising to me. Because the few times that, like, I tested it out as a cold caller, where we were cold calling mobile home parks off market and then other businesses off market, it was very polarizing. Some people were like, oh, this is cool. Yeah, we'll talk to it. And then other people were like, click, once they realized it was an agent. It surprises me to hear that like it's not an issue for your sales teams to have that first call go through an AI agent.
No, it's not. And in fact, it's awesome to watch. You can see as leads come in and the AI agent starts to engage, it'll call them, it'll text them, it'll email them, and it'll have this conversation. And as that conversation progresses, you can literally watch on the back end as that happens and see this conversation emerge. And the agent is masterful at getting people to, eventually book an appointment with us.
I guess if the first interactions with it are text based, that's very different than the latency issues that might come from having a conversation with them, right?
Yeah, and ours does call. So if someone responds to one of our marketing pieces, our agent will call them. That is our first outreach, call and text. And so we don't hide from a phone call by any means. It's great.
Do you track metrics that are like, hey, human versus AI, these are the conversion stats, maybe to show that there is or isn't any difference between the two?
We're 100% AI. And so we don't necessarily have the ability to compare like this half of the house is AI
Right.
and this half is
But
human.
there's probably some like industry standards or benchmarks that you can compare against, right?
So I came across a really interesting, it's perfect timing. I came across a really interesting study that was published by Harvard, and they did a study with Procter and Gamble. I just saw this morning. They studied, I think it was 776 people at Procter and Gamble, and they had individuals using AI, individuals working by themselves, teams using AI, and teams working by themselves. And the individuals using AI, now this isn't exactly phone call only, it was, using it in other areas as well. But the individuals using AI were happier, produced as high or higher quality of work as the teams working by themselves or without AI by themselves. And then the teams working with AI were like multitudes better than the teams
Really?
by themselves. Yeah. So that was one of the first like truly research-based studies from a very reputable non-AI entity on the effectiveness of AI. And it was fascinating to see. I mean, what it proved was AI absolutely should be a team member, not necessarily replace the team, but have it be a team member, and you'll instantly elevate your team to levels that you haven't seen before.
That's awesome. What have you found amongst your customers? Is there kind of like an ideal customer that this works for? Like, oh, home services with a sales team or tech companies with a sales team, or is it not even sales related? That's the best use case for it?
So it doesn't have to be sales related. That's because that's where we came from. That's kind of where our focus has been. And so really our ICP customers have three characteristics. Number one, they have processes that they follow, right? So they're mature enough in their business that they have an ABC sort of a process that they go through. Number two, they have people helping with those processes right now that could be better utilized elsewhere, right? And so people. And then number three, they are, spending money on those processes. They're spending money on marketing to bring leads in, or they're spending money on, moving things through those processes, right? We can help in those areas. We can help reduce costs, we can help reduce time, and we can help processes move more smoothly.
Hmm. That's an interesting framework because you're not just saying, hey, anybody that has sales in their business, you can use our AI agent, right? Like you've got a pretty defined customer. And from everything that you just said, my guess would be like that's a company that's at least $1 million. Maybe there are some that are less than that, but these are companies that have some infrastructure, some leadership that are putting real dollars behind it. And they're probably, from your perspective, they're going to be more successful because they have developed internal systems. Whereas smaller companies, they see these solutions all the time. They're like, oh, this will be the fix. And they implement it, but they don't actually have any systems. They don't actually know how to utilize it. And they're not set up for success.
Yeah. Now, that being said, we work with a number of customers that this is becoming the process, right? They didn't have a process, but AI and their use with the things that we're providing has become their process. And that still works very well. And so if you have a smaller home services company, I've been kind of a serial entrepreneur, a little bit like you, Nick. I owned a heating and air conditioning company at one
Oh,
point, and
cool.
I know how it is when you're busy, when you're running, and the phone rings. I've got to answer that call or I'm going to miss an opportunity. I'm going to miss the next job. But
Yeah.
sometimes you can't. If you've got your hand stuck inside a furnace, or if you're, you know, already on a call with customer number one and customer number two is calling at the same time, and you sometimes just run out of capacity. And that's where something like an agent can step in. And, with our agent, you could have 300 calls come in at 5 a.m. on Christmas morning, and every call will get answered. Every call will be personalized to the person that calls. Appointments would be scheduled. You wouldn't lose anything, right? And it could all happen at the same time.
I talk about this a lot. The first, in my opinion, big hurdle that entrepreneurs face or challenge as they're growing their business is the ability to systematize and then effectively communicate that system. Many entrepreneurs get to the point where like they're only ever a one-man shop or one-woman shop. And that's okay if that's what they want to be.
Yep.
But if you want to grow, you have to be able to create a system and then scale. So maybe that's the better criteria for you is like, hey, you have to have some systems or at least willingness to systematize in order to use this.
It really is the difference between owning a job, right? There's a lot of people that simply own a job, right?
Yeah.
They own a heating and air conditioning company, but really it's just a job. They are a technician and the calls happen to come to them and they do the work. And then owning a business where you have that structure that
Yep.
you described.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah. And one of the things as I've been thinking about AI that I talk about a lot is bringing on these AI agents or bringing on these AI solutions. They're like an employee and you need to treat them like an employee. You need to have very clear expectations, job descriptions, and then like a very clear onboarding process, quality, check-in, performance management. Like you don't just set it and forget it, because if you do, it's not going to work out. You have to be very clear with what you're expecting from them, because then you'll get more out of them by being clear. But many people don't treat them as employees. They're just like, oh, well, it's just solution. It's technology. It should just work.
Well, and it's a lack of understanding. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just, this is new, right?
For sure.
And people need to understand that while AI could be a silver bullet for their business, it's not a silver bullet that doesn't need training and guidance and direction, right?
Totally.
Can AI revolutionize businesses for people? Absolutely. You've got a lot of entrepreneurs that watch these podcast episodes and they're looking for that thing to set them free. And AI may be exactly that, but it doesn't set itself up. So you still have to provide kind of that structure. A lot of times when we teach people about AI, we teach them the 10-80-10 principle. And maybe you've heard this before, but the first 10% has to come from the humans, right? The setup, right? The structure, the direction, the end goal that you're shooting for. The middle 80% can come from AI, and it can do it very, very quickly, and it can do it at a very, very efficient way. But then the last 10%, that polishing step, that final product, still typically has to come from humans, right? And so especially, if you're using like an LLM or, a generative AI type of product, agentic agents tend to get a little closer to that 100% mark on the back end, but they've been really well polished before they can get to that point.
I freaking love that. I love that framework, 10-80-10. I've never heard that before, but it makes total sense. You have to prompt it, train it the right way, let it do its work, and then you still have to do something on the back end in order to make sure that it's producing the type of output that you want it to produce. But that framework, the 10-80-10, I love that, John. I freaking love that.
Yeah. Well, steal it, use it.
Can I try out your software?
Yeah. You want to do it?
Heck yeah, man.
Let's try this. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Now's the part of the show where I feel the most uncomfortable, but my therapist says I need to face my fears. So here we are. I've started a newsletter and I want you to subscribe. And what you're going to get every single week are the aggregated conversations from that week that I have on this podcast with an overview of what their business actually looks like. I'm also going to throw in a review of one or two businesses that are listed for sale. I'll give you my opinion on whether or not the EBITDA multiple is good, or there's customer concentration, or there's red flags or green flags. And then lastly, I'm going to give you one piece of actionable advice every single week on how to buy your first business. So click the link below, subscribe to my newsletter, and let's get back into the show.
Let's have you go to our website. So go to Think.AI. And when you go there, you'll see we're up in the upper
Test our
right
AI.
corner. Test our AI. Go ahead and put your information in there. And then while you're doing that, I'm going to share my screen. Now, Nick, what's going to happen is our agent's going to call you in about 30 seconds. Don't answer your phone, and I'll walk you through a little bit of a process with it.
Okay, so I'm going to say I'm ready to test AI, and then I'll keep an eye on my phone. I always put on Do Not Disturb, so I'll even take it off Do Not Disturb.
I'm going to show you on the back end. So here we can see that you've come in.
Provo, Utah. Skynet is calling me.
Skynet.
Oh my gosh.
So here you can see on the back end, again, this is a high level CRM, and this CRM comes with our agent. You do not have to use it, but a lot of companies love high level as a CRM. We can connect with any CRM system that they're using. But here we can see it sent you a text message, it sent you an email.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Nicholas, this is Eric over at Think.AI.
So go ahead and respond to that text message, Nick, and just ask him a question. Ask Eric anything you want about AI.
Anything I want about AI.
Sure.
Eric, is that your real name?
So we're going to see that pop in here. So here it is. Here's your question. Eric, is that
I'm watching
your
the
real name?
workflow on the back end. Oh,
So you're going to see this on the back end. Now, Eric could respond instantaneously. He could call you as soon as you hit that button a second ago. But we've trained this to say, wait a little bit, give it a 30-second pause to feel a little bit more human-like, right?
Yeah.
And so the AI is automatically updating this opportunity from a new lead to responded to show in our system that, hey, all right, we got a live one here, right? Nick is engaging with us. He's interested. And so here in just a second, we're going to see a text pop back in from Eric responding to you. So here he said, and this is probably hitting your phone right about now, absolutely, Nicholas. Eric is my real name here at Think.AI. I'm here to help you explore our AI solutions and how they can benefit your business. What sparked your interest in AI? And you can see he's already starting to engage in the conversation.
I'll respond. I'm looking for an after hours solution to handle my inbound calls.
Perfect.
I don't know if you do that, but that's just what I said.
Yep, absolutely. Well, let's see what Eric says. We'll let Eric answer. I don't want to answer for him. I'm going to let Eric tell you what he can do. Okay.
If Eric doesn't do well, I'm worried about him. You're not going to fire Eric if he messes up, are you, John?
Well, we'll see. He knows he's being watched, so I bet he's going to be on his best behavior right now, right?
Now, when you trained Eric, is it Eric every time, or is it like randomized Eric and Sarah and Lauren?
So for us, it is Eric every time. And here he's responding to you. But you can have different agents, and each agent has a directive or an objective that it's trying to achieve. Eric's objective is to qualify people and then schedule them for a sales meeting with us. But you could have agents that will then, Eric could potentially qualify you as a sales target and then pass you to a sales agent whose job is to pitch you on our products and sell you. We have you go to a live human at that point, but we could go from one agent to another if we wanted to as well.
So this is interesting, right? He sends me the first message. I troll him. Eric, is that your real name? And he's like, yeah, it's my real name. What can I help you with? So then I tell him my problem set. Hey, I'm looking for after hour solution. And he responds. But the cool thing about the last response is not just let's set up a call. It's, hey, tell me a little bit more about your specific challenges. Like he's further qualifying me as opposed to just sending me straight to a person, which feels less scary, right? Like it feels less like I'm getting hard sold.
So let's do this then, Nick. Let's up the game here a little bit. Go ahead and send Eric a text and just say, hey, can you call me or call me back or something like that?
Okay.
And then when he calls you, go ahead and answer this time. I'll be quiet so that you can have a conversation with Eric, but put him on speakerphone and go ahead and chat with Eric for a minute or so and see how that goes.
Okay. We haven't planned this, by the way.
I'm going to stop my share so we can see your side better.
Okay.
Here.
Okay. Is there still that 30 seconds? Oh, no. Eric is calling. Oh, it's like a first date. Yeah. Hi, this is Nick.
Hi, Nick. It's Eric from Think.AI. How's your day going so far?
It's going well, Eric. It's going well. Thanks for calling me.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm here to chat about how Think.AI can help your business. What sparked your interest in AI?
Yeah. So I have a company. We're a home services company, and we get a lot of calls after hours, but I don't have a team that can actually handle my after hours calls. So what happens is people will call, they'll leave a message, and then I've got to call them back in the morning. And by the time I've called them back in the morning, they've already called like 4 or 5 different companies. So I'm losing sales. I'd like to see if I could get like an AI, agent to answer calls after hours, take some information down, put them in the system so that I'm not like losing an opportunity. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, Nick. It makes perfect sense.
A little bit of a lag. I think there's a little bit of a
leads before they move on to other companies. Our Think agents are designed to do just that. Answer calls, gather information, and even schedule appointments if needed. Would you like to explore how we can set this up for your business?
Yeah, I'd love to know how pricing, and I don't know, how long does it take to actually get set up? Yeah.
Great
A,
questions.
a little
Pricing
lag.
can vary based on your specific.
I'll talk about that when
So
you're
I
done with the call.
recommend setting up a call to discuss the details. Setup
And now he's
time
pushing me to a
usually
call for
doesn't take
pricing.
long once
Smart.
we understand your requirements. Would you like to schedule a meeting to dive deeper into this?
You know what, Eric? You're really ticking me off, and I don't appreciate the way you're talking to me. It sounds like you're mansplaining. Were you trained like this?
I'm really sorry if I came across that way, Nick. That wasn't my intention at all. I'm here to help and make sure you get the information you need. Let's start fresh. How can I assist you better?
Do you mind if I hang up?
Totally fine. And the thing that's cool is you can give them zingers. We've had people that have asked to, hey, do you know any jokes? And the AI is smart enough that it'll take that, go a step or two in that direction to help the person feel heard, and then just whoop, bring them right back on track. It's awesome.
Yeah. So you're not wasting a ton of time going down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So a couple observations. First of all, did you train him separately on sales? Just like, hey, this is how you talk to a lead. This is how you nurture them. This is how you bring them back to going.
Yes and no. What we've done is we've trained him on an objective, right? Your objective is to get from point A to point B, and point B is this. The AI is smart enough to understand, like, oh, I'm not heading towards that objective. I need to pull it back in. We've got, I don't even know, the prompt for this is probably, 40 or 50 pages long.
Okay.
So there's a lot of detail that we include in there. And when we set a new agent up for people, we include all of that for them, and then they can customize it as needed. You had asked about the latency.
Yeah. So I was just going to say the two things that I noticed, the latency for sure, and then just the manner of speaking, right? It's like, oh, yes, of course. How can I maybe assist you with that? Like it's not like it sounds robotic, but it doesn't feel totally natural. So I could see somebody talking to them being like, oh, you're an agent.
So a couple of things there. So on the latency issue, we can actually dial that down so it has less latency. So he can jump right in. The challenge that you run into though is that people naturally, when we speak, we will take breaths, we will pause, we will think for a moment. And especially when you're face to face, it's easy to see that, right? And we as humans can recognize that. Even over the phone, we've come, to the point where generally we don't speak over each other, because we recognize, like, oh, they're halfway through a sentence and they're taking a breath. I'm going to pause and let them finish. AI is just simply listening for dead airspace, right? And so if we dial that latency down too much, then it jumps in and interrupts, a little bit like the very beginning of the call there, where you guys were kind of on top of each other a couple of times, right?
Which in the beginning of the call, that's pretty natural, right? Like you just kind of
hello. Oh, hello. Oh, yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Now, like I said, it's getting better, Nick. And there are some models that have recently been released. If you go to, I think it's sesame.ai, and go and play with the models they have there, they've just released something a couple weeks ago that has really kind of blown everybody's socks off. And that's a really cool one. So your listeners could go check that out. That's not licensable yet, but we're watching it really closely because it is the most realistic that I've certainly seen in terms of, having a more natural conversation.
Your point makes a lot of sense, because I'll use ChatGPT's speech model, not speech model, but I'll talk to it.
Yeah.
And that is one of the things, is like it will interrupt, or if I take too long of a breath, or if I'm just like thinking of how to phrase the next thing, it hops in and it doesn't let me finish my thoughts. So that makes sense that you would have the latency in there.
So, I mean, it's something that we can play with, and depending on the age group that you're targeting, like we have one customer that works with elderly people. We've dialed the latency way back because they tend to speak a little bit slower, right? Their manner of speech is just a little slower than, a younger person who's like, hey, what's going on? Let's go, right? And so we can dial that up or down based off of the target customer.
I'm just glad you don't have the fake keyboard.
Oh, yeah.
When you're like listening, it's like
papers in the background.
It's like, let
me see if I can look that up.
It's so obvious. Like, just don't even give me the fake sound.
Yeah. So anyway, and the other thing that's cool though is this is as bad as it's ever going to be.
That's what's crazy.
Like, it's only going to get better. And our belief is that AI agents are going to take over phones in the next 12 to 24 months. Most businesses will have AI agents that take over phone calls for them. And so as a society, we are going to become very, very accepting of speaking with AI, because it's going to be forced upon us because businesses are just absolutely going to go that direction.
I think what's interesting about your business is the fact that you've integrated with high level. I use high level. I always want to call it Go High Level because that's the
Sure. Yeah.
website.
Go high level. I do the same.
Like what that does is if it was just the phone technology, that makes it a little less sticky because it's like, oh, I could just go to any model that has an agent that can answer it. But because you're integrating with high level and you've got to get them, the customer, to have the systems and processes in place and then adopt high level because then downstream, everything else that they're doing, the billing, the scheduling, the coordination, it's in high level as well. It just makes the product stickier.
Yeah.
Was that something you kind of just like realized down the road, or was that like, no, we need to have this?
There are a lot of people out there that their business is high level, right? That's what they sell. That's what they offer. For us, it's a throw in. We needed a platform that we could build the automation piece on. High level has some AI tools built into it, but they're nowhere close to the things that we're doing. And so we just needed an automation platform and a way to deliver this, right? And so
Interesting.
high level became the platter, and then we started putting all the meat and potatoes on the plate, and we can deliver it however people want. So if someone's in Salesforce or HubSpot or they're in Zoho or or if they don't have a CRM and they don't want to use one, that's fine. We can have our AI just simply plug appointments on their calendar, and they call after call after call, just talk to customers.
So you think it's that 12 to 24 months? That's where you think that is?
Yeah.
Is there anything that would stop that? Is there anything that you're like 12 to 24 months unless XYZ happens?
Maybe World War III.
Well, no. Here's why I ask. Tesla has been promising full self-driving since 2012. Any of these technologies, there's the promise of what it's going to do, but the promise doesn't catch up to the reality, or excuse me, the reality doesn't catch up to the promise in the time span that most people say. And so 12 to 24 months sounds like a very short time span relative to how many people are using AI in their business right now.
And here's why I think that the 12 to 24 months is realistic. Companies that begin using AI are going to accelerate past those that are not using AI at a rate that is very, very scary for those that don't adopt. And that's going to force the adoption curve to move very quickly. And so it's this snowball, right? That's starting to roll down the hill. And as it grows, it's just going to go faster. There are things that we've been able to do as an AI centric business that's allowed us to grow 100 times faster than a non-AI centric business. And someone that's not using AI and is trying to compete with us, not that we're that much better. It's just, we're driving a jet and they're in a pony in a wagon. Right? And so there's just no comparison, right? And so very, very soon, home services businesses, right now they're losing anywhere from 20 to 50% of their opportunities because they're not answering all of their phone calls. Well, imagine if now suddenly someone in the industry is answering every single call that comes in with a perfectly poised agent that is able to schedule the customer and take care of their needs instantaneously. They're going to clean house, right?
Yeah.
And people are going to just naturally start to filter business to them.
I
And so
agree.
the competition is going to force AI to move forward more quickly. And the technology, you brought up Tesla. Yes, it's been 8 years. Next year it's coming, right? But AI voice technology is not something new. It's been around for probably much longer than 8 years. Now, it hasn't been really great quality, but now the quality has caught up. The ease of use has caught up. The cost is certainly where it needs to be. So all of the things that need to align are aligning. And
Yeah.
now it's just all of the lights are green and now it's just go.
I think there's two things that make it difficult to imagine how fast the adoption is going to be. The first thing is your frame of reference. And for most of us, the frame of reference is hype is always overpromised and underdelivered. And so we have examples like full self-driving or around 2000. Remember the Segway?
Yeah.
The Segway was going to revolutionize transportation. So I think that's one thing is people have this frame of reference that is like, well, they always say 12 months, but it's going to take 5 years. And then at the same time, on the other end of the spectrum, we as humans have a hard time understanding compounding growth. So like we're really good at linear growth. Okay, next year's 10%, and the next year's 10%,
That
and 10%.
exponential curve is tough
But
to
the
capture.
exponential, that was the word I was looking for. But the exponential growth is really, it's hard for us to understand and visualize how fast it happens. And so I think those two things are unfortunately holding back many people's psyche who aren't in this every single day. They don't understand how fast it's happening.
The adoption follows money, right? If you look at, 8 years ago, Tesla was talking about self-driving cars, but the money wasn't there. Now the money is starting to flow into that more and more, and they're going to see, adoption start to move up. If you look at what's happening in the world of AI, particularly AI that is accessible to general public, there are quite literally hundreds of billions of dollars, trillions of dollars flowing into AI and AI infrastructure this year. Not like this 10-year plan, but this year, hundreds of billions of dollars are being poured into it by the largest companies in the world. It is going to get, this isn't a comfortable way to say it, but it's going to get shoved down our throats because we are forced to adopt it. I mean, look at our cell phones now. We've got AI on board on our phones. Our computers are now, popping up and, hey, can I help you? Right? I'm an AI agent and I can, it is here. AI is going to be as commonplace for us as cell phones, as the internet. It is something that very soon we will not be able to function normally without it.
Well, because the rails are there. Like in 1920, if you would take a Ferrari or a McLaren back to 1920, it wouldn't be that enjoyable of an experience because the roads weren't there. Like you couldn't drive anywhere. It wasn't until the 50s that we really buckled down and created the interstate highway system with President Eisenhower. But today, like that, to me, if AI had been in 1990s, we didn't have the rails there to deliver it. We do have the rails.
AI was in the 1990s. The early 90s was actually a fairly big time for AI, but like you said, the rails weren't there, so it died off for about 15 years. And in 2010, 2012, things started to pick back up. Now the rails are there, right? This infrastructure, the billions and billions of dollars that need to be in place for it to really, be explosive. Like you say, that's in place now.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's coming.
All right, John, this was fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick.
Think.ai. I can't wait to check in with you in a little bit.